and I have such a special guest with me, and I just going to say by way of introduction and then bring on Dr. Ron Rhodes that when Daniel came to Babylon, he became a chief minister at Nebuchadnezzar's royal court. He became known as a man who could interpret dreams and visions. God did mighty miracles through Daniel and impressed King Nebuchadnezzar himself so much that he worshipped the Jewish God. And Daniel can be seen in the Bible as the empire-predicting prophet because he accurately predicted the world governing empires before they came on the scene. First Babylon, then Persia, third Greece, and then Rome. And in the last days, there would be another Roman Empire where the Antichrist would arise. At this time, the Messiah will return and set up his everlasting kingdom. That's such a quick overview of a wonderful book in the Bible. And we carry Dr. Ron Rhodes' latest book, 40 Days Through Daniel, Revealing God's Plan for the Future. Dr. Ron Rhodes, welcome back to Understanding the Times Radio.
Well, it's my pleasure as always. Thank you for having me, Jan.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. A difficult book to understand, yet one of the most important in the Old Testament, if not in the Bible. What were your primary issues that you wanted readers to take away when you got into this book?
Jan, I think that Christians are in need of encouragement today because we're living in discouraging times. There's so much that's gone wrong in the world today, and I really feel like Christians need to learn about this living God that Daniel interacted with. And I think it's an encouragement to Christians to learn about the mighty acts of God that God did on almost a daily basis. And I think that we have a tendency to think that maybe that was in Bible times, but God doesn't act that way today. And that is simply wrong. One of the things that I really wanted to help Christians understand in this book is to really gain an awareness of God as a personal being that personally interacts with his people, and that he blesses righteous living, and that when you come upon circumstances that you can't understand and that you can't solve and that you can't handle in your own strength, God is there and he brings miracles and deliverances in ways that you could never fathom. And God is still doing that today. In fact, I'm emboldened to say that because I've witnessed it with my own eyes. And Jan, I want people to understand how God is sovereign over all people. We look at the world today and we think that maybe some of these evil people seem to be getting away with committing horrendously bad acts, but they're not getting away with anything. One of the things that we come to understand as we study the book of Daniel is that all of human history is but the unfolding of God's sovereign plan in the world. And the more that you understand that, the more your faith is strengthened when you watch the daily news at night. And so ultimately, Jan, this book is written to be an encouragement and a faith booster to the people of God.
You know, Daniel shows us how to live in a pagan culture back then. All right, we're in a pagan culture again today in the 21st century. I mean, you look at our headlines today, they can't get any more bizarre. So how does Daniel show us how to live in a pagan culture today?
Well, I think that Daniel knew what was later recorded in the Gospels. You know, the Gospels quote Jesus, and actually the Apostle Paul too, and John himself, all of them emphasize a key truth, and that is that we are in the world, but we are not of the world. Daniel was in Babylon, but he was not of Babylon. More to the point, Daniel was in a pagan environment, but he was not of that pagan environment. Now, we like to look at Babylon and think about how pagan they were and how bad they were, and they did have many false gods and goddesses, and they thought those gods would bring them military victory and riches and wealth and health and all those things. But you know, when we look at our day today, we've got occultists, we've got astrologers, we've got psychics, we've got almost half the country involved in psychic phenomena, and 3 out of every 4 teenagers has had experience with the occult in just the past year.
Why do you think occultists have been popular from Daniel's day up into the present day? I mean, I know the Bible predicts the rise of evil, even the rise of pharmakia, use of drugs, etc. I mean, it's just kind of going off the chart, even as I speak.
Well, it is, and I think there's a number of reasons for that. I think, to begin with, we have shifted in our culture in the way that we discover spiritual truth. It used to be people went to the Bible, but today people are experience-oriented. And when you talk about psychic phenomena and occultism, it's all about experience. Even our young people, our teenagers, are into these, what they think to be thrilling experiences when they engage in seances and playing with the Ouija board and all that sort of thing. But people have no idea what that kind of compromise will ultimately bring about in their lives. I think that today, just like in old times, people are curious about what lies on the other side of death. We're witnessing the aging of America, and more people are not just interested in what lies beyond death, but they're interested in the possibility of communicating with the dead. And it sounds so appealing, Jan, and especially when you realize that today we've got people claiming to be Christian psychics. This becomes all the more dangerous.
Yeah. I've done entire programs on things like this, Ron, and I'm just going to insert parenthetically, and you raised a couple of, the fortune teller, the Ouija board, etc., just a moment ago. I was introduced to the Ouija board at my Christian college. Now, that wasn't 5 years ago, obviously, but it was a few years ago, but nonetheless, my Christian kids and friends in college were all consulting the Ouija board. I don't think they thought there was anything occultic to it, but I think they wanted to know their future.
Yes. Well, you know what's interesting about that is that when you read the modern psychics today, I'm talking about people like Sylvia Brown, who by the way, has died, but also John Edwards and James von Prague. One of the interesting things that they all say is that you should never mess around with the Ouija board because the worst kind of spirits are affiliated with it.
Thank you.
Now, when you've got psychics warning against it, that must be especially bad.
Thank you.
Now, I've got to also say, though, Jan, is that what we've witnessed is a whitewashing of occultism in our society. It's no longer considered dark. It's considered, wisdom. It's considered to be good. There are benefits to, engaging with psychics and astrologers and people who are involved in various paranormal activities. And so I think Satan has done a master job in kind of giving a new image to occultism in our society. And that's one of the reasons why I'm glad that we do shows like this, because Christians need to be warned about all of this.